Chicago Tonight, Latino Voices is made possible in part by CIBC.
Good evening and welcome to Chicago Tonight Latino Voices. I'm Brandis Friedman. Thank you for sharing part of your weekend with us. On the show tonight, how Chicago's day laborers, many of whom are undocumented, are finding and not finding work during the COVID pandemic. How the debate over raising the federal minimum wage is playing out in Illinois and across the country. We introduce you to a hospital chaplain who's helping patients' spiritual health amid COVID-19.
An exploration about really grounding myself in my negritude and pride of being Black and Latina.
And a Chicago woman gives us La Ultima Palabra on her experience bridging cultures as a Black Latina. First off tonight, as we near the anniversary of the first COVID shutdowns in Illinois, many of Chicago's day laborers are finding themselves in dire straits. Months of shutdowns and economic devastation have made finding work, an already scarce commodity in recent years, more difficult than ever. And the circumstances of many of their lives make them particularly vulnerable to infection and financial devastation. Joining us to talk about the outlook for day laborers are Rigoberto Campos, day labor organizer for the nonprofit Latino Union of Chicago, and Nick Theodore, professor at the University of Illinois at Chicago's Department of Urban Planning and Policy. Gentlemen, thank you both for joining us. Rigoberto Campos, let's start with you, please. Let's sketch out how the day labor market typically works, what kind of work people find, how they find that work in normal times, and how it's been affected during the pandemic.
Yeah, I believe it's important to kind of lay out the challenges that they typically is in front of them. They wake up every day with hopes of trying to find work, and whether that means they're able to pick something up, it really comes down to what happens when they're at the corner hiring site. Sometimes they're lucky, sometimes they're not, but the reality is that the pandemic has really made that situation a lot more difficult. I mean, we're talking about being able to pay for rent, being able to pay for food, your bills, your phone, and honestly, the challenge there is that they're having to make financial decisions that are really hard. And when you add taking care of yourself with COVID, it makes it really challenging because if you get sick, that's a day away from work, and that's money that you need today, right now.
Nick Theodore, what aspects of the lives of day laborers make them especially vulnerable during the pandemic, both the financial problems but also infection?
Well, as Rigo's saying, I think the issue of having to work often in close contact with other workers on a day-to-day basis, not always knowing who your coworkers might be. There's a lot of exposure issues that I think make things very difficult. And we're talking about low-wage work, insecure work overall. And so the pressure to return to the day labor hiring site to try to find work day after day, despite the hazards that might exist, well, that pressure is very real for day laborers.
Rigoberto, your organization, Latino Union of Chicago, offers support to day laborers. How are you supporting them through this difficult time?
Yeah, at the moment, we are going out there trying to offer PPE. We're handing out cash assistance that we've been able to attain, sharing information on food pantries, trying to offer them a support group where they can vent and kind of process how they're feeling at the moment. But the big reality is that a lot of their needs go beyond just being able to solve what's happening now. A lot of it's also just like based on a lot of intentional work around policy change and systemic change.
And you know, just one basic question that comes to mind, Rigoberto, are they finding work in these times?
Honestly, it's on and off, mostly off. The reality is that it has affected the market. And even though it's affected the market, they're waking up every day really early with hopes that they'll still find something. But the reality is that even when sometimes people come looking for them, there are people that are taking advantage of the fact that they are immigrant workers looking for work at a corner site, and so they're not paying them much at all, and they have needs too.
Nick, the last year saw an economic downturn in most areas, though, of course, we know some sectors, some industries did remain robust. What effect has the economy this last year had on the labor market for these workers?
Well, it's had a tremendous effect. I think both in terms of a slowdown related to the pandemic and the amount of construction and other work that day laborers are doing. But then there's the bigger question about workers who are being displaced from other industries. So as restaurants and bars shut down, as other sectors of the economy shut down due to the coronavirus pandemic, workers were being expelled from those industries. And for many of them, they turned up on the street corner looking for day labor work. For those day laborers, this is almost employment of last resort. And so they are putting additional pressure on day labor markets, which puts pressure on wages and job availability. So during every downturn, whether it's the pandemic or the Great Recession a decade ago, every time we see a downturn in the economy, the number of people looking for day labor work increases dramatically and creates hardships across this economy.
Rigoberto, what other assistance are day laborers eligible for, particularly those who are undocumented? And is the vaccine even a possibility for them?
Well, honestly, at the moment, there's not a lot. Usually, as the citizens, you've been able to get access to unemployment and other assistance, but as an undocumented worker, no, and they need it. There are some applications that have opened up since March of 2020 that they have had some opportunities to apply to, but there's a lot of mistrust with the government and just general institutions that they're so scared about risking or putting their name out there because they just don't have that safe space. And we've been able to kind of do that outreach, but like the reality is that they're still really scared and they're still trying to figure it out. And we're doing what we can with them to try to work collectively on those issues.
Nick, as businesses, slowly begin to reopen, do you anticipate that conditions will get better for these workers?
Well, there's some sign that there's a bit of an economic recovery in this country, even as unemployment in some sectors continue to mount. In the area of construction, where a lot of day laborers work, the folks that hire them can only put off projects for so long. And certainly in Chicago, with the spell of very severe winter weather that we've just experienced, my guess is that you're going to see an increase in demand for day laborers and other construction type work. So there may be, at least in the short run, a bump in the kind of job opportunities that are available. What the long run holds is anybody's guess.
And I saw Rigoberto nodding his head as you were saying that. We've got about 20 seconds left, Rigoberto. There's also the technological barrier to getting help for these workers. What can you tell us about that briefly?
Yeah, honestly, I think the reality there is that a lot of this help that is out there is being passed out or online, or like the outreach is happening online. The fact of the matter is they are not connected to these mediums where this information is being shared.
Yeah,
they may have the technology.
In that absence, it's...
Yeah, and there's service that's cut. And so the reality is you have to do it in person, which is what we do. And
we're actually, sorry, Rigoberto, sorry, we're actually out of time, but I want to thank you both so much for joining us. Rigoberto Campos and Nick Theodore, all the best to you.
Thank you.
Negotiations on the latest COVID-19 relief bill are underway in Congress, but a key Democratic priority is in question. President Joe Biden had initially pushed for a proposal in the bill that would raise the federal minimum wage to $15 by the year 2025. No matter what happens at the federal level, Chicago goes to $15 this summer, while Illinois is on a path to $15 by the year 2025. Earlier this week, Paris Schutz had a conversation with Rob Carr, president of the Illinois Retail Merchants Association, and Adriana Alvarez, a McDonald's employee and a leader in the Chicago chapter of Fight for 15. He began by asking Alvarez why it's important to her to continue pushing at the national level, despite Illinois' hike being a done deal.
I do believe that this is everyone's fight. I'm not the only one struggling here in Illinois. There's a bunch of people out there struggling. So I believe that the federal minimum wage should go up to a livable wage of $15 an hour.
And Rob Carr, you represent businesses in Illinois. What are you hearing from your members about the most recent hike in Illinois and in Chicago, again, expected to go to $15 this summer?
Yeah, I think struggling is a great word for it. There's a lot of employers who are struggling as well, which is why we have historic unemployment in the state as a result of the pandemic. It's going to impose, I think for us, for Washington, Illinois is a cautionary tale in that you don't want to do this. You want to think twice about doing it at all, but certainly in the middle of a pandemic, because it makes reemployment and growth a lot harder.
Adriana, what about that? The Nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office put out a study this month saying that raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour, it would lift nearly 1 million people out of poverty, but it could also lead to the loss of 1.4 million jobs. Could it actually hurt workers instead of help?
In my opinion, I don't think so. The more money I have in my pocket, I'll be able to go to these small mom and pop shops that I have by my house. I don't have to make the trip to, you know, those big corporations that have the deals. So I'm not going to be saving any kind of money. I'm going to be spending it right back into the economy.
You know, Rob Carr, if you look at the minimum wage adjusted for inflation over the last several decades, it really hasn't gone up at all. In fact, it's gone down. Should the minimum wage at least keep up with inflation?
Well, I think that calculation depends on where you start the calculation from. And 68 has been chosen by the advocates rather randomly. If you choose it from other years, it's a different story. But no, you don't want to have a wage on an automatic increase. Sales are not on an automatic increase, for example. When you talk about the retail sector I represent, it's been horrible policy for the state of Illinois to continue its minimum wage increases in the midst of this pandemic. And that's what you would have if you had something on an automatic escalator like that. So that would be a terrible approach.
Adriana, what about that? Again, Rob is saying that there shouldn't be automatic raises, but if you look at the minimum wage adjusted for inflation, it really hasn't moved at all. And then we're talking about 50 years.
It hasn't. It's been since. Yeah, it's been, you know, the federal minimum wage has been stuck since 2009. And I mean, everything else has gone up. We have to work 2-3 jobs just to, you know, buy essential stuff. And I honestly don't think that that's right. And $7.25 is not enough.
All right, we also spoke with a Chicago restaurant owner today who pays his employees above minimum wage. Here's what they had to say.
As a business owner, like, I have to hold myself to a higher standard. And I do. I think that, like, if you're chasing after $1, you know, you have to, like, look at who you're stepping over when you're doing that. And I think a lot of people, like, we tell everybody that, like, you know, stimulus, we're going to give you a stimulus check to spend money to, you know, to boost the economy. But then you don't want to pay people enough money to where they can boost the economy.
What about that, Rob? You know, on the macro scale, $15 minimum wage, more money in people's pockets, more spending power for more people, it would boost the overall economy. What about that argument?
We have never seen that work anywhere in the history of mankind, not once, and no researcher has ever been able to find that effect. Were that true, the rationale would be, let's take it a lot higher. But we have not even we've never seen that effect anywhere. And that's because at some point, 1 + 1 does equal 2. And when you look at employers, and particularly in the state of Illinois, right now, in the middle of a pandemic, who are, if now that they're just, some of them just getting open, like restaurants and taverns, others at limited occupancy, many who have not passed along the increased costs that they've experienced from their suppliers, they don't have anywhere else to go. So, you know, unless we figure out a way to enhance their sales, that math doesn't work.
Adriana Alvarez, has COVID-19, do you believe, has it changed the calculus here for businesses and the importance of boosting the minimum wage to $15 when you do see a lot of businesses really struggling to make ends meet right now?
I mean, yeah, this pandemic has been awful on everyone. You know, myself, I had my hours cut, and if I were making the $8.50 that I was making when I started, I wouldn't be able to feed me or my son. And so I think that that's something to also look into, because our store stays busy just because our inside isn't open. The drive-through is always packed. We're making constant money, and I don't see how it is fair that we have to struggle.
Rob Carr, in the few seconds we have left, what about different standards for minimum wage? I mean, does it make sense to have a uniform wage across the nation when you have different costs of living in cities versus rural areas?
No, I think that's an important point, and that's something that we argued when we were debating this with Governor Pritzker in the Assembly at the time. The governor rejected that approach. We also had suggested support for a $50 minimum wage if you phased in longer. For example, City of Chicago employers will have had 10 years to get to $15, whereas downstate and suburban employers are being expected to do it in 5. And now they're being expected to do it in the middle of the pandemic. But that policy suggestion was also rejected. So, that's the problem we face.
All right, well, we'll have to see where this goes at the federal level. We might know in the next week or so. And our thanks to Rob Carr and Adriana Alvarez. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we're back with more Chicago Tonight Latino Voices right after this.
One of the key coronavirus metrics that politicians and public health officials have kept a close eye on over the past year is hospital capacity, making sure there would be enough beds for the sickest of COVID patients. But hospitals don't just offer health care. Many offer care for the human spirit as well as the human body. Chicago Tonight's Nick Blumberg spoke with a chaplain at Gottlieb Memorial Hospital in Melrose Park about the challenges of ministering to patients and families during a pandemic.
Jorge Maldonado has thought about illness and the end of life for a long time.
I was part of my grandfather's own process of dying.
An experience that helped put Jorge on the path he still walks.
I learned how to accept that someone dies. It was not sad for me. It was more like a reassurance of life.
Jorge spent many years in seminary before deciding against becoming a priest. He also spent nearly 2 years as a missionary in Fiji.
And I learned how to, be more in conversation with people about their own faith instead of their religion, because religion is almost an institution, but faith is your own personal beliefs.
A lesson he carried with him when he began training as a hospital chaplain in 2004. Jorge says his ministry has taught him time and again.
There's a great, amount of spiritual strength in everyone. I remember this lady who was in her 80s, close to her 80s, and she said, I need to go home to take care of my mom. I mean, her mom was 103-year-old. And I thought, a lady like her in her age should be taken care, but she is taking care. She's still a caregiver.
As a native Spanish speaker, Jorge is able to provide comfort to patients and families who sometimes find it more difficult to connect with the hospital staff.
It's always appreciated when we can communicate each other in our own language.
In his early years as a chaplain, Jorge says he was sometimes unsure whether he was finding the right words, especially in English. But he learned that sometimes his presence is more important than what he says.
For some people, it's just to show them that someone who's there is not a doctor, is not a nurse, but is going to be by their side.
Being by a patient's side to hold their hand or gathering with a family to pray or to talk, that was all upended last spring because of COVID.
We encourage them spiritually and emotionally through the phone. Nurses use also the iPad. They can go inside and do the FaceTime phone calls.
While the work of a chaplain is adaptable, the work environment has been difficult, sometimes anxious and sad.
Even some staff member would express their anger, not being able to help the patients to recover. I'm 52-year-old, but I've never seen anything with this high of stress.
Earlier this year, Jorge tested positive for the virus he and his colleagues had been battling for months.
It was a struggle, but at the same time, I think at the end I became stronger. And knowing that, I share that with patients who have gone through the same process, and staff as well.
One patient stands out in Jorge's mind, a man in his 40s who came in last summer. He expected to get well. He didn't. He left behind a wife and a baby.
His wife, she said that her baby was the most beautiful gift ever given to her by her husband. That story stayed with me. So it is a lot about hope, resiliency, and also see life continues, even though there was a traumatic end here, but the baby is life and new life for her.
Despite the toll of illness and death over the past year, Jorge still finds hope, like from his father in southern Chile, a former vaccine skeptic who said he recently got his first dose for the good of his community.
People like him really do care for others. And that's what we need these days, to take care of ourselves and take care of the loved ones we live with and the whole community.
For Chicago Tonight, I'm Nick Blumberg.
And one other way Gottlieb Hospital provides comfort to patients, a program to give out plush handmade blankets that patients and their families can keep. Jorge says he thinks of each knot on the blanket as a prayer. From Cuba to the Dominican Republic to right here in Chicago, millions of Afro-Latinos speak their culture in their language and wear their African heritage on their bodies, especially in their hair texture. In tonight's La Ultima Palabra, Black Latina Anjine Galvan Rodriguez reflects on how becoming a mother inspired new appreciation for the gifts of her African ancestry.
Hello, my name is Anjine Galvan Rodriguez. I am an educator, Dominicana, and I am Afro-Latina. And this is my story. Being an Afro-Latina is, I always call it this beautiful, complex experience. Beautiful in the sense because it is an honor to know that my ancestors had such an amazing impact on the fabric we call Latinidad. I taste it in my Afro-Caribbean food. I feel it when I hear the music that just brings rhythm into my soul. I see it in my beautiful black skin and my black features and my big hair or my crown. However, it's always this idea and this dance between being too Latina to be African American, but also being too black to be Latina. I was born in the Dominican Republic, but I was raised in Puerto Rico. And even at 5 years old, I was, made fun of by kids because I had pelo malo or because I was negra, I was too dark. And when I came to Chicago in the 1990s, nobody knew what a Dominican was. Okay, so people will ask, so what are you? They were always confused. Spanish, you're black. So trying to figure out how to manage that, that yearning for community in a community that oftentimes excluded you because they didn't know where to put you, really at first felt like this draining experience. It was exhausting as a child. But I grew up in a beauty shop. My mom's a hairstylist. I would always hear the stories that the women used to share at the beauty shop. And I started realizing that as they share their stories, they build community. When I became a mother, I really had this intentionality about how do I explore sharing my experience with my children. And that didn't happen overnight. It really happened when my daughter came home one day and she shared how kids at school were making fun of her because she had big hair, and she just was different. And that's when I realized I have to be more intentional. And that's when I explored that experience. How do I do this? And one of the ways that I did it was to go natural. So instead of straightening my hair, I decided I'm gonna go natural. And then I started a blog to share my natural hair journey. It ended up being a window to be able to connect with others in the African diaspora and an exploration about really grounding myself in my negritude and pride of being Black and Latina. And it wasn't just about hair. It was about self-exploration and accepting myself naturally and deeming my African features as this beautiful gift that my ancestors left behind. I am their legacy.
We couldn't quite fit as much of Anjane's story on tonight's show as we would have liked. So if you enjoyed hearing from Anjane as much as we did, good news, we've got a longer version of her story on our website where you can watch more in our La Ultima Palabra series. And that's our show for this Saturday night. Be sure to check out our website, WTTW.com/news, for the very latest from WTTW News, including details on a mass vaccination site set to open next month at the United Center. And join me tomorrow night for Chicago Tonight, Black Voices. What's in the sweeping criminal justice bill that was signed earlier this week, and what's concerning its opponents? And Sammy Davis Jr. on how media representation affects popular perception in a throwback clip from WTTW's Our People. And on a programming note, Chicago Tonight Latino Voices is off for the next 2 weeks, but we hope to see you right back here on March 20th. Now, for all of us here at Chicago Tonight Latino Voices, I'm Brandis Friedman. Thanks for sharing part of your weekend with us. Stay healthy and safe, and have a good night.
Closed captioning is made possible by Robert A. Clifford and Clifford Law Offices, a Chicago personal injury and wrongful death firm that's proud to serve its community through pro bono legal services.